All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Future Spaces. Excited to have you here today. Um, if you want to go check out what's coming up, go to futurespaces.com. Tomorrow we got Theo Watson, who's actually the co-founder of Design.io, and then Stuart Smith. Oh, wait, I post for these. This is just saying check out the website. We were like booking things all the way into like August, September now. So we got plenty of great things coming up. Also, if you missed a session and you want to catch a recording, all the recordings are up there, futurespaces.com. They're lovingly edited for your pleasure. We also have a job board. So if you have a job, if you need a job right now, it's totally free. And we're just trying to find jobs that are like specific to kind of the space that we're in. So a lot of experience design, a lot of innovation in physical space and digital space. So a couple of museum things thrown in there, a couple agency things there. So if you need a job, you know someone who needs a job, take a look. Next week, we are welcoming Stuart Smith, who is doing AI and ML over at Unity. So he's going to be talking a bit about quantum mechanics and some of the way that actually sort of informs the way they're thinking about game design at Unity and also thinking about AI in Unity, and it dovetails a little bit into the metaverse. He does some amazing things. I also just found out last week that he did a granddaddy video, which I thought was just like incredibly cool. All right, but come in and check that out. And then on Friday, we're going to be trying something different. We're going to be doing a longer session, a vibe coding workshop. So if you're not familiar with vibe coding is the thing that sort of democratizes software development. So like you're not going to build like Snapchat with it, but you can build a cool little app. And it is, and probably eventually you will be able to build Snapchat. But we're going to be basically, Pushani is going to be kind of showing us some of like the ways that she's actually built like mini games and apps with vibe coding, and then we're going to like just actually all vibe code together. So it should be like a fun thing. So if you're like me and you're a Flash developer and you haven't coded in 10 years, come on back. It'll be great. Oh, this is this is Theo's work. So check it out. Design.io tomorrow. He created open frameworks. He's amazing. But today, we are welcomed by Kevin Collins, the CEO of Secret Walls. Huge fan of what they do. I will not take up any more airspace. With that, Kevin, I will hand it over to you.
Amazing. Love it, Josh. Thank you. It's good to be here, everybody. I mean, we're not quantum mechanics, we're not vibe coding. We're like the opposite end probably of the spectrum, but I would argue equally as important. And we represent a lot of what's on this channel right now and community and making space to come together and have like-minded conversations, dialogue, and support. So I'm going to share a screen right now. And start talking to you guys about the world of Secret Walls that I am lucky enough to represent. I want to make sure that this is shown up. We just did this, but now I've, for some reason, I am.
Okay, now we got your notes.
We got
Not the presentation.
right.
Okay, you got it.
Hold on, I got you guys. Trust
You
me.
got it.
There it is. In the meantime, Chicago is the greatest city in the world for all the folks that happen to be here from the great city of Chicago. Can you guys see this?
Nope. No.
Nope. All right, sweet. Over to quantum mechanics. I should go to it.
The tech track was so smooth. We got this. We got
Let's
this.
go. Let's go. I'm gonna unplug this and go back to a non-dual screen. We're just gonna go for it this way.
I
I'm
can see
assuming,
that.
I'm assuming that works. Great. Okay. All right. Love it. Well, thanks for having me on this, Josh. It's great to virtually be connected with everyone. Please connect on LinkedIn with me if you so choose to. Kevin Collins at Secret Walls. I consider myself a lot of times one of the luckiest guys in the industry on a lot of levels. I have a beautiful family. I've been married for over 15 years to my lovely wife, Margot. I've got four incredible humans. Rocky, who's a 13-year-old daughter. I got a son named Dodge, who's 10, daughter named Veda, who's 8, a daughter named Odette, who's 5, and they drive all of it for me. I spent the better part, well, over 2 decades, I guess, in the creative agency world. I kicked off my career at Levi's on the brand side, learned a shitload in San Francisco, working across a lot of different roles, and then jumped over to experiential marketing. I spent about 16 years at MKTG that from kind of day one, inception through acquisition into Dentsu, played all the roles, saw all the stuff, learned a ton, ran a lot of sport, entertainment, culture, brand partnerships. I was, day one with Jimmy and Dre on Beats by Dre. I was with Nike forever. I was with Gatorade. A lot of beautiful work with Apple along the way. On that journey while living in the UK, actually 2011 to 2014, I was lucky enough to be out exploring culture, and walked into the Village Underground in Shoreditch, for those of you that are familiar with the haunts of East London. And I was greeted by a 10-on-10 live paint battle. That was maybe hit me right in the chest. One of the most visceral experiences, a marketer, creator, curator that I had walked into maybe ever. There were 20 artists on stage. There was a global beatbox champ emceeing the event. There was an incredible DJ, open bar, some of the coolest merch I had ever seen. Like all of it was there in a warehouse. I met Terry Guy, the founder, in the room that night. 10 years later, I'm partnered with Terry running the community and the growth and the strategy behind what's next for Secret Walls. Along the way, in those kind of 10 years, I would moonlight for tea. I'd write some pro formas, some strat decks, like all that stuff to really land Secret Walls, in a world of growth and opportunity that supports local, that makes space for artists, that does all of the things that we talk about doing as marketers and creators, and does it daily. Like we put in the work, we grind out opportunities for artists to be discovered, to build community around one another, and to grow. And so to call myself lucky would be an understatement. So to kind of get out of holding company, I spent a few years at Momentum as well in IPG, and I love all of those years. The jump that I made at the start of 2022 into Secret Walls just sort of coalesced everything that I was good at and brought it into a world that I thought I could really make a difference within. And here we are, 3 years later, building the world's premier live art entertainment universe. The stories that we bring forward, the rooms that we curate, the artists that we feature, the stories that we tell, I'd argue are best in the industry. Secret Walls was born out of the notion that the arts needs to be democratized more. And this is back in 2006. This is 2 decades of putting in the work, of making space, opening gates, and providing access points and indicators into the art community that hadn't existed before. I'm going to play a quick video and then tell you guys a little bit more of the lore. And then I broke this document up into like two different stories, the A side and the B side. The A side is what is out in the marketplace that we showcase quite a bit on stages and through panels and workshops and Q&As. The B side is what we talk about internally daily, which I thought would be great for a room like this, of like, what are our northern stars, like what's our guardrails, like what do we look to daily to make sure that what we think is right and it's landing in the right spot, and that we're keeping ourselves accountable to how we program in the marketplace. I'm gonna play a quick video here for you so you guys can see what our energy feels like as well. So probably one of the like raddest nights out that you'll have in a long time when you come to one of our battles. So please come, reach out and ask me where we're showing up next. It's a unique universe that we represent, and one that, when it was born, when Terry, my partner, birthed the idea, it was coming out of a b-boy battle, an MC battle in the basement of a pub in London. This was pre-Banksy, pre-exit through the gift shop, at a time very much when the arts, and that universe was isolated under the cover of darkness. It was highly criminalized. There were a lot of things up against the arts that were making it inaccessible. So Terry decided to throw a party, and instead of, MCs on stage, we're going to put artists on stage, blank canvases, and have a go, sell some tickets and see what happens. What happened in that room last night was a clear indicator that artists want community, and they would love this space, and fans want to see art live. I say it quite often in interviews where it's like being at the chef's table of your favorite restaurant. You're smelling the paint, you're watching creativity. I mean, this is all freehand, freestyle, no sketching, off the dome in front of 1,000 people. And that sort of energy is what we represent over 90 minutes, cross disciplines all over the world. We create spaces, connect artists to fans and collectors, and drive community through a series of global programming tentpole moments that we're very, very proud of. Over the last 20 years, it's grown from, this one battle in London to, yeah, I think the next step on the journey was a Euro League that went through mainland Europe and into Asia, came to the US in 2017. We're now proud residents of Harvard Heights, Koreatown, on the corner of Venice and Western in LA. I'm based in Chicago, but we're going pretty heavy in North America right now, and we're moving back for a lot of programming in mainland Europe and Asia this year as well. We've been in 50 countries, over 150 cities. We've got thousands of artists, cross discipline in the network from Jakarta to LA. Graffiti writers, muralists, contemporary artists, digital creators, you name it. They've shown up on our stages in a lot of different ways. We've entertained millions. We've got a very proud community that we've built. We haven't bought, like we haven't parachuted. It's rooted. It's very much, day by day, week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year. The community has grown authentically over the last 20 years in a really unbelievable way. And it's because we do what we say we're going to do. We support in ways that a lot of people don't put the effort in daily to think about new ways to build experiences and showcase and define how to access the arts. And it's getting picked up on. Last couple of years, I've been really proud of, especially since I came on and we restaged Secret Walls. And a lot of that, side note, is coming out of COVID, it hit us hard. When I jumped in to support Terry, you can't entertain live, which you've been doing for the better part of, at that point, 15 years. It hits the ecosystem hard to the point of, can we sustain? So when I came in and partnered with Terry, it was like, all right, 2.0 is this. Like, this is how we're going to reorganize the offering. Here's how we're going to make it accessible and always on for artists. Here's how we're going to invite brands in to authentically partner with us. Here's how we're going to extend the ecosystem in new ways for artists to gather, to share secrets, and to build community. And the trades are picking up on it as well. And this isn't like, look how big we are. It's more of, we didn't pay for any of this stuff. The Rolling Stones that show up and hype beasts, like, they show up because of the work that we're doing. And I'm proud of that, not because of, the big numbers, but because of how they showed up. Last year, I think one of the first things I did in 2022 is like, let's build our own national tours. Let's tour like we're a rock band, because we are. And let's localize each battle. Let's put artists on stages across North America. We did 40 markets in 60 days in 2022. And last year in 2024, for the Art of Competition tour, we sold out 15 shows over 60 days. And we put out a lot of great stories. We introduced a lot of artists to the marketplace. And, because of that roll up and like the in real life work that we do, we're able to see more visibility and bring more folks into our funnel to, collect an artist, to follow an artist, and to support the space. Which leads me to support your local artists. This is more than, a tagline. It's everything that we do, think, feel, and seek out daily. Sila for us is the reason we do what we do. Support your local artists isn't just who's next in the graffiti world or the muralist world, but your local barista, your local DJ, who supports the community day in and day out. Those are the folks we do what we do for. Like, that's why we want to continue to scale and find opportunities, is to ensure that neighborhoods continue to thrive through the arts, and the role that we play helps spark some opportunity for them. It's a mentality. that drives our communities. And you'll see Sila across everything that you do, that we do when we hit markets, and it couldn't be more important to us. So, and that kind of translates into, this is always, this is an important slide for me, and there's probably hundreds of these quotes out there right now that I've just seen in the last few years. But, and it goes back to a quote that I heard in my younger agency days of, if you call yourself innovative, you're not. Like, let them choose the word. I feel that way about community. And we don't like to say like, oh, we're community builders. We let our artists say it. They see it, they feel it. And this is a very introverted, isolated, Josh, you hit it in some of the lead up in your posts as well, of like, these are not creators that are used to scenes like this. They, not only is it nauseating to take a stage in front of 1,000 people, but it's vulnerable. It's judgy. You're getting judged on like what you create live. And so, to build a comfortable, safe space for this to happen within the Secret Walls ecosystem is really important. And that translates into, it's a communal feel. When they get off stage and hug each other, after just battling, they're friends for life. And I think that kind of letting the artists say community for us is the whole point, and continues driving us to think differently and smarter about what we do. The business of Secret Walls, like how we break down our universe, the battles are the front door of the house. I say a lot, that's what gets people in. That's the kind of the sexy, boisterous, raucous, chaotic live scene. It's like this hip hop meets punk meets 8 Mile meets gallery art, paint splashing everywhere. There's pyro in the background. I mean, it's wild. They're very, very fun. I actually just came off the road from a 3-day tournament at the One Moto Show, our first motorcycle rally out in Portland. Insane. Like, it was insane. It couldn't have been more fun. But you keep opening up these new markets and new doors and new fan bases, and it's exhilarating. But once you come inside our house, once you kind of get into our room and then start exploring Secret Walls, it's so much more. We do a lot of direct to brand work. Whenever there's art or an artist story or a journey that's above the line or below the line, we like to play in that space. A lot of that's my background. And so when I came in a few years ago, it was like, all right, well, I know I can do this. And now we have this artist network who's asking for more from us. Why don't we kind of expand the offering and ensure that it's done the right way, that we're protecting artists' IP, that we're contracting everything the right way, we're protecting the brands at the same time, of like, where is that art going and how long is it in market, and that we're using our best in class ability to tell experiential stories the right way. And then the third pillar is Secret Walls Academy, which is a sleeping giant. That's our curriculum-led programming that really focuses on aspirational artists, who's next, artists teaching artists, that has all the power in the world. And whenever we bring it forward, we brought it out on tour with us in the fall. It's very much that space where it's not just how to draw a character or put, paint to canvas or paint to paper, but like how to be an artist, how to build a drop, how to source t-shirts, how to build a following, how to do all of that, how to be an artist for a living. And it's a really beautiful space. So it's sort of the behind the canvas version of our battles, where you're with these titans of industry in a room of 30 or 40 learning the craft. They're really beautiful rooms for us. I'll double click really quickly into those three, and then I'll hop into some of the B-side language and thought starters that drive Secret Walls. Like I said, these are rad. Like, these battles are different in every room. They're localized in every room. They're always local artists on these stages, local DJs on these stages. We don't rinse and repeat. This is authentic as it gets every time we get there. The bottom left is actually the digital art battle that we did at ComplexCon a couple of years ago, which it was Chuck Anderson, No Pattern, and Stephen Balte, and like some Elise Swopes was up on stage as well, where everyone was battling off of tablets and computers. I mean, it was incredible. The ecosystem of a battle experience are the walls, the artists, the host that guides you through the experience. We'll always have a celebrity guest judging or a big name artist or talent on stage to help call a winner. Music is imperative to everything we do. We're big into the DJs that we pair with every room. We got incredible merch and drops, and then the crowd powers it all. Like they get a vote, they help decide winners. It's, these rooms are highly unique. They're different every time. There's different artists on stage curating walls in really unique ways, and I could go back 1,000 times and not see the same thing over and over. We've got disciplines, almost like weight classes. If you think about, UFC or, boxing, we've got the OG, which is black paint on white canvas. And a lot of that is, if you go back to the very first battle and there were 10 rules on the stage of you got to fill in the whole canvas, black paint only, no sketching, no pencils. The reason for black paint is to equal the playing field a little bit. You start adding color to some of these artists and it just becomes, you tip the scale way too much. So we try to neutralize that with black paint only, but we have pushed into VR battles, 2D and 3D. A lot of fun here. So there's a future where it's paint versus pixel, and the evolution of our universe is fun when we start adopting all this new talent and bring a really diverse set of battle artists into our funnel. Here's a little kind of visual of what a room feels like. This was in LA to kick off our tour in 2024. We actually, part of when I came in, we trademarked the art of competition. We've got an eye towards bringing the arts back to the Olympics, 1912 to 1948. You could win a medal in the Olympics. And, we're actively talking with LA 28. So that sort of sport meets art meets experiential live programming is our sweet spot. We lean pretty heavily into esports and pay-per-view. And, it's a really, really nice Venn diagram where we land in the middle of. Quickly on the kind of secret walls, SWX, if you will, agency level work, and just how we set up our ecosystem. A lot of direct to brand partnerships. This is really to make sure a lot of things, most importantly, that it gets done the right way, that artists are compensated properly, that they're protected, that we can do everything we can to be at the center of bigger marketing initiatives where the arts are showcasing. And so this is a burgeoning kind of pillar within our ecosystem, and one that
Seagulls is the platform where arts and sports meet.
Last year's Champions League, that
competition,
guy, the founder,
energy,
over,
expression.
Sport meets art.
Seagulls very simple. 90 minutes on the clock, black paint, white walls. On the biggest walls we can possibly build, a freestyle battle, and it's the best person wins. Winner takes all. It's very high energy, and we've been in some really rowdy atmospheres before. It's because you get a chance to actually get up close and personal, just like you do at a game. You're like front row, like right there, watching them kind of just carve this thing out. It's raw, it's different, and again, I think that's what makes it special.
Next Level is powered by Verizon.
So just, good examples of where we show up in the marketplace. And I'd love to open it up to questions and talk with y'all too. So I'll try to breeze through these last. I probably have about 7 or 8 slides left here. Secret Walls Academy. This is my daughter, Rocky, top right in the blue in the center there. I couldn't be more proud of her. She rocked at one of our academy sessions in Chicago a few years back. But this is, if you ask Terry, if you ask me, like, this is it. Like, these rooms, you're looking at 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 50-year-olds that are just getting into it, that have like an itch to scratch, that want to learn from some of the best and do it in a way that is different. And some may think like it sticks with you more that way. Like the return that we get on investment, if you will, in this space, every dollar we make pushes right back into Academy. We're exploring new ways to digitize this? Like if Seagerwalls Academy was masterclass, what would that look like? If it lived in a vending machine, what would that look like? All sorts of different ways to scale this beautiful pillar within our universe, this kind of creative learning and impact. And when you get to do it with and it's not just a workshop, it'll end with like a mini battle. And these artists, like these kids get up there and have a go on one of these walls. They're really special rooms. And when you get to learn from some of the biggest names in the contemporary art space that not only battle on our stages, but sell out galleries and do big drops and are highly sought after with 500,000, million followers. That's pretty cool, especially if it's free, which we like to make sure it's everyone can come, have a go, space is open, available, and for you. So Academy, I'll get into a slide where we're going to push a lot more energy and investment behind Academy in the coming years. And then it shifts into the B sides. Like this is the stuff, I don't think I've ever presented these slides before. This is all internal stuff where, I've built it out a little bit more, but this is the language that we use to talk through quarterly. Is this the right project? Are we doing this the right way? What does the timeline look like? How do we preserve? And a lot of it's me. Like I was the new guy that came in 3 years ago with agency mentality and I'm the commercial guy and I'm gonna fuck the whole thing up because we're just gonna like sell out and do brand partnerships and it's gonna be gnarly. And so this is very much like checking myself down as well and ensuring that when we do say yes, I've vetted it with the artist community, that we're not ruining 20 years of authentically rallying around this space in a way that allows us to do the work that we do, and that we're maintaining a really open dialogue with the community that we support and represent. We the data points are endless right now, especially coming out of COVID, like doubling down on a lot of this stuff. But pull the couple forward that we look at a lot. Again, this is probably new to Secret Walls of like data points. Like this is me. Like I want to make sure it's not just all gut feel all the time, because I think we all know we're all smart leaders and creators and marketers and artists on our own. Like we know some of this stuff. We feel all of it. But you want to root it somewhere so that it takes on a little bit more shape and gives us, well, was that successful? We want to give ourselves KPIs. Like, what did we do? If 51% of communities feel that they don't have access to the arts, like, how do we fix that? Like, what are we doing in Koreatown and Harvard Heights in LA every day to make at least our access point to the arts feel equitable to the entire neighborhood? If 78% of millennials, I mean, we pack out our kind of 18 to 25-year-old fan is loud and raucous in our rooms. I mean, when we go to college campuses, there's lines around corners, on blocks to come in and access a space. We know they like experiences. Like I'm an experiential marketer at heart my whole career. So we know this kind of economy of I want experiences with friends versus things and in my house, that we do more of that, like that sort of experiential engagement. So we show up on these data points and then we pull all of that forward into making sure as we're building environments or framing out projects that it's rooted somewhere. The first point is we represent where this kind of art and community converge, and that we make sure that locations aren't just places, that they're kind of sparks for movements, that it's more than just like, let's go on tour, we'll do House of Blues venues or Live Nation venues and like that's it. Like, no, I want to get down alleys, I want to go to warehouses, I want to go to neighborhoods that don't typically get programming like this. I want to talk to who's in charge of like different spaces that may want to take on a cultural event like this, and make sure that we're not just mailing in even placemaking, like where we're physically going, that it's the right neighborhood that will be activated and inspired by us showing up there. And I've like the minute I got into this seat and we went right on tour, I'll never forget it. We went to Fort Wayne, Indiana on tour, and I got into the green room with 8 artists in that city, and at least 3 of them started crying. Like no one comes to Fort Wayne, Indiana. No one. They go to Chicago and they go to Indianapolis. They go right over the top of us. And there's this burgeoning, incredible arts community in Fort Wayne. Like those moments in time for me are kind of all of it. Like it's the reason, like when we go to tier 2, tier 3, like where are we showing up? How are we showing up? How are we activating those spaces and making physical environments feel urgent, visible and kind of accessible to a community. This is kind of why it matters. Nearly 80% of people feel more connected to the community after attending an arts event. And yet access to it feels very unequal and unbalanced. And we've probably all felt that. I've come out of galleries or museum tours with friends, and like that's all you talk about. And those are really unique feelings, and we need more of it. And that's where I'd like to think Secret Wall shows up and plays its role in opening up more space. And then I think I said it before as well, but localize all of it. Like this isn't rinse and repeat. This started with one blank wall in East London, and it was East London in that room. And now when we go to Fort Wayne, it's Fort Wayne in that room, or Madison, Wisconsin, it's Madison in that room. I just came from Portland, Oregon, and it was all Portland on those stages as well. Be of the city, honor the artists that support that city, the people that come out and buy a ticket, that we are supporting local culture and everything that we do, the DJs and the hosts on our stages. This isn't a touring act. Like we don't go on tour. I know I've said we go on tour, but we localize each stop. This isn't, the circus coming to town and we all get off the truck and fill a tent and then move to the next city. We localize all of it. This is not an algorithm. And quite frankly, it's the exact opposite of it. And I think there's, a world of sameness in the creative space right now that we're seeing, a lot of different ways. We aren't that. And we make sure that the local relevance is the very first checkpoint on anything that we do. And it couldn't be more important because the kind of staying power of ensuring the neighborhood was represented there wins out. A few more slides on this. Not just a moment, but a platform. And that's, I think I hit on that a couple times already, but extending beyond the battle stage or getting behind the canvas, if you will, on, why Academy is important and what that funnel looks like and kind of the checkpoints as you come through the Secret Walls universe. I mean, there are stories that Terry has that even I've seen in the first 3 years of being in this role of artist goes from, I want to go to an academy. 6 months later, they're on a battle stage somewhere, like, and then 3 months after that, they're painting a huge hand-painted out-of-home mural for a big brand. Like the kind of funnel through our universe is highly, highly important and designed to really cultivate who's next and who aspires to make a living in this space. When we do brand collabs, making sure it's with purpose, making sure that the brief matches our ethos, and that we have the power to push and ensure a brand partner knows how to do it the right way. There's a lot of times where you just assume a brand is trying to be a culture vulture. They're kind of drafting off of our equity or the artist's equity. And we want to make sure that isn't the case, that it feels earned and not imposed, and that we do it all the right way. The artists in our world are, I'm not an art. I wish I was an artist. I'm a space maker. I build stages. I find opportunities to get artists who are our main characters into rooms to be discovered and celebrated. And, making sure that our brand partners understand that and they're extensions of that mission is very, very important for us. And then we like kind of the last bit here is, well, what else can you do? And, I've been in rooms early into this role where we want to do more. I don't want to wait for you to come back to the Twin Cities for a battle. Like that's going to be 18, 24 months from now. Like what can we do in between? What are other access points into Secret Walls? And so, and when we do launch those, we got to make sure they're well intended. They are invested in properly, both financially and through hours and support from a team standpoint. So when we put it into the market, it doesn't die on the vine. We got a ton of ideas. I mean, I get a million a day from friends and advisors of like, what if you guys were a karaoke bar, and instead of singing, you were battling in rooms? What if you guys were a speakeasy? What if you guys were a whiskey? Or what if you guys were a coffee shop? The coffee shop stuck. So about a month ago, we opened up Black Line Social in LA in our venue. And it's turned into, like, I mean, 4 weeks into it, it is a hub. I mean, it is always on, always on. The LA creative community is using it as a clubhouse. We've got some titans in there daily and weekly. And, it was one of those moments where, like, in our gut, this feels right. We got to make sure if it hits the market the right way, that, we're seeing all things properly and what it represents. But this sort of everyday access to creative culture where, space, artists, fans can all come together for us is apparent as we move into the next wave of Secret Walls ecosystem building. We'll wind up probably opening more of these, figuring out smart ways to scale Blackline and to use it as the extension of our brand as well. We're launching like breakfast socials, all sorts of really purposeful programming out of it. We're again like do versus say. Like that's are we can I can tell you, like, say a million things that we want to do. Do it. Like do it. I think that's where people wind up kind of hitting the wall of, I've got a great idea. Great. Like put it in motion. Like what's the plan? Let's go activate against this. That's what we've been doing for 20 years and what we'll continue to do for the next 20. Here's a quick fly through of what I consider one of the most beautiful spaces in LA. That whole kind of compound is over about once a month with new artists from anywhere around the world. And it's a highly sought after walking destination close to the arts community. Sounds LA and on comedy shows, use production sets, live, sound, something application. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, this is Western, coffee's on me. Last 2-3 slides, I think. And I'll breeze through them and check time, perfect amount of time for a little Q&A. But where we're going is infinite. My job, I was saying to Josh before we hopped on, my job right now is like keep pulling the balloons down to street level. Otherwise, like we'll just float away and none of it will work. There's an infinite amount of things that we can do as Secret Walls, as a community. The ideas that we get proactively, unsolicited from artists, dreaming about, this, that, or the other thing are wildly inspiring. We've narrowed it down to ensure that we're thinking about everything I just talked about, that everything's got meaning behind it, that it ties to the narrative and the lore of Secret Walls, and then it's well intended. Secret Walls Academy 2.0, like pushing harder into artist education. There's a massive gap that we would love to shrink, at least by way of our purview, from more workshops and mentorship to paid commissions. We're exploring a lot of new formats right now. And we're getting really inspired, I think, by a lot of the new immersive venues out there. There's some really beautiful spaces that have kind of drafted off of Sphere and everything in between that would be rad for us of turning, the paint on canvas into a much more immersive hybrid format of experiencing artists and their portfolios, which we're kind of toying with right now. We're going to lean a lot more into creative tech and how we distribute our IP, both in how we stream and how you can vote and how you can interact with a lot of the storytelling that we do. That's in the works right now. And then more access points. I think we like see the coffee shop. We want more physical spaces, more bunkers, more, whether it's a coffee shop in Chicago or Atlanta is not, it's kind of besides the point. Just more access points to show up and rally and gather with your fellow creator and artists. you know, these are actually words you'll see and hear a lot at HQ on internal meetings that I run with the team. And we all probably feel it, know it. You know, trends fade, but trust doesn't. That's just going to keep compounding. And the minute we jeopardize that trust is the minute this community moves on. So everything we do needs to be run through that filter. You know, we're way more than just an event. It's a platform where communities and arts collide, one city, one wall at a time. Place matters. Artists need advocates, and consistency beats hype. And so show up every day, ask the questions, check in on artists, be inspired by them and help inspire them. And, you know, that trust turns into opportunities to open that gate more and to provide access points to communities that want to be part of, you know, that's art sometimes feels like it's for the few, not the many. And that's the opposite way of how we think and feel about it. Everyone should have access to this democratized, you know, art community. And then it's an invitation to y'all, like make space and culture follows. This isn't about art on walls. It's about building places where people show up, feel seen, and leave inspired. When we back artists, we amplify voices that divine cities, shape movements, and bring people together in ways no algorithm ever could. If you believe in creativity with a pulse, if you believe community is something you build, not something you brand, then join us. Secret Walls. Support the artists, share the wall, help us create what comes next. I thank you all for supporting local, for making space, for listening to our story. There's a lot more B-side, I'm sure, you know, over a shot and a beer, I'd love to tell you about for my Chicagoans, a little Chicago handshake. Let's do it. I'm going to stop share here. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or anywhere, and I'd love to hop on with y'all and, you know, keep telling stories.
All
All right.
right, Kevin, that was awesome. I mean, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing. I have so many post-it notes here with my own questions. But you guys know the drill. If you have questions, feel free to kind of jump on camera and ask yourself or chat it to me. Dav, did you want to ask your question?
Well, I don't know if it's much of a question. I mean, I just first of all super inspired by what you're doing. I had a small question about. I was surprised to see the digital along
Yeah.
with the physical, and
Yeah.
so I was wondering if you can ever combine them. My hunch is that like if you combine them, that the physical would win whatever that means, because I think it's just so much more compelling. But what I was thinking about is just like in this, we were kind of chatting while you were talking about like
Yeah.
the AI and how that affects things. And I feel like this is just so the answer to AI right now. I mean, AI
Yeah.
is great and wonderful, and I'm super interested, but like the realness of the physicality, I think is something that we can all really appreciate now, kind of more than ever.
Yeah.
And so two things. What about the physical and digital? Just kind of a small thing. And then secondly, there's all kinds of shit going up happening here in San Francisco. And I noticed that you don't have any secret walls in San Francisco, so please come up here. That we're just closed down Highway 1 to create the biggest park that San Francisco has created in like 150 years. So it's like, and
Uh,
there's all kinds of really cool community artwork, people just bringing like trees and turning them into couches and pump tracks and stuff like that. So, and it feels like this is that vibe. So anyway, all of that, turn that into respond in any way you like.
yeah, no, no. I mean, first of all, love the Bay Area, lived on Union and Jones for a couple of years. We'll be up there. I think it's been probably 18 months since we've been in the Bay Area. We were in Oakland on tour. Um, but we have a ton of artists on the ground there. It would be great to get up there and get you in a room. It's you know, that's a really polarizing topic, especially when you think about artists IP and AI and the like all of that. And
Yep.
you know, I won't even get into the legal side of it
Yeah.
and protecting, you know, your universe in the right way. But that's a whole different track. But it's very important. And, you know, we try to provide resources and ways of thinking and access points to protect yourself when it comes to that. But then you get into, you know, it's sort of like the top chess masters up against the computer. Like I don't know, there's something ritualistic and fun, paint versus pixels. However you kind of frame out all of that, there's a beauty there.
Mm,
And I think not for every artist, mind you, like some are like, fuck that. That's like that isn't
Yeah.
but some are highly interested, you know,
yeah.
in exploring all those different weight classes, you know, on a battle stage. We're really close with people and what he's building in Charleston and his studio. So like we pushed in when everyone else did into the, you know, we stopped short of like going full NFT, but we did like the idea of minting what you saw, like
Mm,
walking away with that is a print that could almost immediately show up in a wallet
mhm,
from a battle stage. And we're still very bullish about kind of that within our ecosystem, Dab.
mm,
So it's just it's not for every moment, it's not for every room, it's not for every artist, but it's something that is in our universe that
yeah.
we definitely stoke and make sure is up to date and as an option.
Do artists sell their prints? Is there a way to? Because I would imagine that'd be great to like you're saying, walk away with a piece of that,
Yeah.
put it on a wall, and it's like as in a memento, but also be contributing to the artist and have like a limited edition, or I don't know, some kind of way of sharing it in a physical form.
Yeah, we'll do that. Not every time, but yes, for sure. We'll auction off the work and split the proceeds. We donate a lot of the original artwork because,
Mm,
mind you, these are very, it's a Ron English one of one. It's one of those like the art is it's got blemishes and all. Like you can't
yeah.
if you screw up, you're not cutting anything back with white. It's black paint. And
Yep.
so like what's there is there, which is there's some beauty in that. But also artists are sometimes a lot more open of letting go of it because of how it was created versus
Mm,
having honed it over the last 2 or 3 months in a studio.
yeah.
So we get really creative with where it shows up on merch and as a takeaway and social storytelling. Because when you're in the room and you smelled the paint and you watched it happen and it's all freestyle, you kind of want it. Like that would be,
Yeah.
I would hang it. I have a ton of original artwork in my home from battles, and like there's a story then every time you look to one.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Colin, you had a question.
Um, just to kind of dovetail off that, maybe a little bit of like the economics of your business as well
Yeah.
as like, is there a rev share model to accompany to support the artists? I've got a client in mind that does a rev share model with chefs, and it's been very successful and kind of fun
Yeah.
to watch them work out how to run a profitable business and share revenue with chefs that typically don't make money off of their art. And then also like kind of the size and shape of your team. I mean, like obviously you must gear up for tour dates and kind of the production side of things, but then there's also got to be some like core team members that are covering you internationally and everything else. Like, what does that look like and how does that work?
Yeah. That's been a lot of like my learning as like I've scaled a lot of teams and have operated a lot of different versions of teams. That's been tricky. I'll answer that second. But the first one is the rev share. Um, that it doesn't work unless we're properly compensating, and I think for years, and to Terry's credit, like it was more this kind of fraternal order, and it wasn't ever about like any of that. It was just like I want to rally together in a warehouse and like kind of go for it. And as it gets bigger and it's clear there's brands backing us and there's opportunities for earning off these stages, we'd made sure that that tracks up with the artists as well. So especially the SWX agency level work, there are big checks in there for artists, and we're super transparent with it. Like we'll show anybody like how it all comes together and ensure that the market rate is well beyond what the artist should be making off of this. So we advocate very aggressively for proper rate cards when it comes to that stuff. And then the rev share when it comes to the battles, there are opportunities and we definitely bonus off of like sold out rooms and like bringing your community in and like uh there's a fixed fee to battle. Sometimes though they're ticketless and it's just like it's an open door and it's not about that. So it's a little bit case by case, Colin, but it's always top of mind and it's always transparent and we want to make sure if we're doing what we say we're doing, artists are being compensated properly and they're scaling up with us. So as we grow, they grow.
Yeah.
And we've explored everything from, an equity pool to, how to think about different ways to build, almost like the Knights of the Round Table, like the OGs that have been with us for 20 years that have kind of leaned so aggressively into banging the drum and telling the story and making sure that that's not lost on Secret Walls 2.0. So all of that is, and I think thanked back by the artists as well, because we don't assume anything and we like to have those kind of active conversations when it comes to their time, the value of their time, and the value of their IP. The team's nimble. Like we're a 6-person full-time team, but we scale, it becomes a 30-person team real quick. And a lot of like that's how I've always built teams on the experiential side. There's like a permalance universe of like, I don't want to be full time and I'm a producer. And quite frankly, I don't need a producer every day. I need like our studio, I need our social team, I need the content creators always on. I do a lot of the outbound and the biz dev, and like that comes natural. And then when you need to kind of build a crew, we've got a pretty wild network of best in class producers, designers, techs that can jump in and lead the way when we
Cool.
go on a tour or are walking into a pretty big set.
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be some major challenges around doing that from city to city, especially some of these like smaller venues where you've got to go find
Oh man.
people to come build sets and stages or whatever else. Last thing is, when are the new dates going to go up on the website?
Yeah, we just came out of a wave. I was telling Josh, like we have to refresh the website. Summer is always like festival season, Colin. So we'll be, all over the music festival scene. We'll be up doing the Montreal Mural Festival, which is usually like a 2-week battle tournament, up in Canada. We'll be battling up in Ottawa. We'll be at Designer Con in the UK at the top of June. We'll get the website updated with new battles ASAP. Where are
Cool.
you based?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, let's go. I mean, we're there all the time.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll be tracking you for sure. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate your
Love
time,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Kevin, I have a question for you. So like I'm curious. I mean, one, I'm Fort Wayne, Indiana. How did you know Fort Wayne was ready for a battle? And then like also like do you guys have like ambassadors in each of these cities? Is there sort of like a more of a decentralized model like that?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy word of mouth. And I think you just that was the support your local artist tour. That was literally the very first thing I did when I got into the role was like we need to build equity that isn't like not every battle can be powered by a brand or in LA at our HQ. Like we just need to go and we spent all of our money. We came out of 2022 like, oh no, that was expensive. But then like Rolling Stone picked up and all of a sudden like that article hits and they call us, the verses of the art world. And this is why you have to go like, then it all made sense and made it worth it. When you get into those tier 2, tier 3 markets, you go with a lot of gut. There was enough of an inbound, like we'll get 20 portfolios through the website a week from all over the world of like, I really want to battle. I really want to collab with you guys. Let me in a room, let me on a stage. And we started seeing a lot in and around kind of Fort Wayne. And it actually came down to Fort Wayne or I think Ann Arbor, Michigan, like a couple of these kind of smaller towns. And we leaned into Fort Wayne. I don't know, there were maybe 100 people showed up and it was mostly friends and family of the artists on stage. And it was a tight little room and compact and sweaty. But man, if it wasn't amazing. I mean, it was the whole point. It just, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it because I think I jumped on tour at that point. It was my first stop. I was like, oh shit, like this is very, very emotional for a lot of these artists who have been painting in the cover of darkness for, 10 years who get to walk out and show everybody what they do. One of the artists, a gentleman named Fresh Laundry, grabs the microphone at the end of it and gave this like drop the mic speech of like the power of the arts in Fort Wayne and why we matter and the fact that we're in this room and gathering around the scene. Like it was special. And those are the moments. It wasn't because we could sell the most tickets in Fort Wayne. It wasn't because, it was the coolest venue that we could go to or the biggest following, like social followings of artists. Like these all artists had probably had 2, 3, 4,000 followers. It wasn't about that. It was about like bringing it to places that deserve it.
Have you guys ever considered like a TEDx model, like where you would let like cities self-organize, or is that
Yeah.
like too
It's
too
been like
far?
I reined that all in because Terry was kind of shooting
That
from the hip
pulling
for
the
a
balloons
while.
down? Yeah.
And like it was, there were franchises everywhere. And I've like slowly been kind of pulling them all back so that we could do something like a little bit more organized. I think he just kind of grew fast. It was like a lightning rod. Mark Echo caught wind and all of a sudden he was on tour, didn't know what was happening, like had never built anything like this. And all of a sudden there was like franchises all over the globe. So we just started dripping it back out. The first stop was in Colombia. We have a partner down in Bogota, and he is killing it down there. And we're testing it right now. And then sort of what does it look like to hand the model off to either a country or a city and let them run with it? We've got friends everywhere. It's a great way to scale. Centralize the IP and then let them localize it.
I love it. I love it. I think, all right. Oh,
Yeah,
Mexico.
Mexico for sure. Joyce,
Oh
let's
my
go.
gosh.
Yeah,
There's so much talent down there. All
yeah.
right. I think maybe we have time for like one more question. I don't see anybody want to jump in, or should I throw a last one out there? I guess one of the questions that I have so many post-it notes here. Oh my gosh. I guess one of the questions I have is like, what do you find is like the best way to like keep the community engaged and keep the brand activated between battles? You know, if you're like, yeah, how are you kind of keeping yourselves in people's consciousness? Or are you more like a band that just like you're gonna drop an album every once in a while and like show up and people will show up?
We check in all the time, and that was like one of the bigger points coming into this like second wave of like don't reach out when it's always transactional.
Mhm.
Like the big ideas and artists, creators, musicians, that whole category, there's they judge themselves, they judge their work. It's a heavy category. So checking in and paying visits and making sure they know we're supporting, that we go to their gallery shows, that we send folks on, that we're, buying their art, that we're sharing their art, that we're using our timeline to showcase them. Like all those components are in play, but we do a lot of outreach. We ask a lot of questions, and we try to ensure that whenever we reach out, it's not always just for one reason or one reason only. Like there's a project or a battle or something that feels more transactional versus just family.
I love it. All right. Well, Kevin, this was amazing. I want to personally thank you for what you guys do because, like, I'm like an extroverted art kid, so like I went crazy in the studio and like pretty much
Love
like I
it.
mean that's why I started an agency because like I couldn't spend any time alone. So I love the fact that you're putting art kids on stage, raising art kids. I'm so glad they're gonna have a stage to grow onto. You had
And
put
I
together.
looked at the archives of Futurespaces. I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to talk about? They're not going to like secret
Oh
walls,
no, no, no. This is great.
quantum mechanics. I'm like,
This
oh
is
my
totally
gosh.
in my
Yeah.
core area, man. I make it, bringing art into public spaces, man. I think it's the
Yeah.
best work. You'd mentioned before like an invitation, like how can this community help you? Like what are ways that they can stay engaged?
Yeah, well, I mean, please reach out. I put my email address in there and I'll make sure everyone's got information. But, I would say it's not even about secret walls. Like and share artists in your community and your neighborhood. Like put people onto them, search them out, take pictures and, throw it up on your timelines. Nothing to do with secret walls. Support your local neighborhood with everything you do, buy and shop local and support. And I think that's all we care about. Like that's kind of why we do what we do.
All right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. I'm actually heading into downtown LA. Maybe I'll stop by and get a coffee.
Oh, it's
I'm
Terry.
gonna tell
Terry said,
Terry I'm gonna be getting a free one.
yes, free. Yeah, it's on me. Kevin said free.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah,
I got a recording. Amazing. All right. Thanks everyone for being
love it.
here. I hope to see you guys at a future Spaces. We'll talk soon. See y'all.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.